Good morning again. Good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. Hey, June Marinas, how are you doing? I hope you're well. Let me see. Everything is streaming good and well. Fantastic. All right. Today is Thursday, the 30th of May. We just saw overnight massive dollar strength right across the board. Oh man, yeah, massive dollar strength going right across the board. Bit surprising, but managed to catch some opportunities from that move as well. Hope you guys traded well. Hope you managed to take advantage of the move. Finally, we saw a bit of a consistent move, although it did invalidate many of our setups that we talked about from yesterday's live stream. As it was pushing up, I hope you caught or managed to flip the buyers and catch some trades on dollar strength. Do let me know how you went with that. Hey Diana, good morning. How you doing? Hey Neymar, I think Neymar was the one who spotted the inverted head and shoulders. Was it you? Or was it someone else who spotted the inverted head and shoulders on the dollar index, which actually played out very nicely? No, I'm actually feeling, I was feeling a lot better. Just a bit of a sniff and a cough, but yeah, still okay. Thanks for that, Diana. Yeah, Neymar did it, so very good spot there. Right, thanks for spotting that. It played out very nicely. I hope you also managed to catch a move on that with the dollar index strengthening from the inverted head and shoulders chart pattern. Jumarinus caught 30 pips on the USCAD. I did trade the USCAD as well, traded it to the upside as it bounced off. That was one of the bigger, more straightforward setup. Neymar on 30 pips on the Euro shorting, very nice. Diana's asking a question, why is the yen dumping? That's where I'm sitting here and I've been looking at the charts and I'm thinking, I've been thinking the same thought. Why is the yen dumping? The main thing that I can think of is it went up to the level where it looked like the last time the Bank of Japan intervened. So it's gone against the grain of what everyone else or what every other currency is doing, and it's pushing back down. So I'm considering the thought of a possible intervention from the Bank of Japan. Not a massive one. It's pushing down, but it hasn't gone down that couple of hundred pips. So still considering that it might be an intervention from the BOJ. All right. Hey, Richard, how are you doing? Good morning. Okay, so again, if you're new to the session, do drop a message, say hi, let me know where you're joining us from. For all the regulars, a big welcome back. Thank you again for joining me on this session. What else I was going to say? If you can help me out massively, do remember to click that like and subscribe button on YouTube and on whichever platform you're watching on. There is always a like and a thumbs up button somewhere that you can click. That would help massively. If you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put it into the chat and let me know. Okay, a quick disclaimer, any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only, as the contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product. Your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Right, with that, take that away. Gold is moving down. That one I can kind of understand because of dollar strengthening. That's how we saw gold pushing to the downside. It's played out exactly as how we had anticipated. So that's done okay. I can understand that. It's just that the BOJ, Richard has shared that the BOJ policymaker hints at a rate hike if yen's impact on inflation is big. That was the headliner from yesterday. There was a headliner from yesterday. Just considering with that talk about long-term rates decision or decision on longer-term rates, maybe they have done a bit of a stealth trial intervention. And usually, if you have noticed already, whenever we've talked about interventions, they would do one trial, do a bit of a stealth or a bit of a trial intervention, and then within the next couple of days, follow it up with a massive intervention. That's what I've seen in 2022. I think it was 22, where we saw the intervention at one time, and then recently as well, we've always seen one which you attribute it to, was it an intervention, was it a fat finger situation, and then a couple of days or a week later, it's a massive drop because of a clear, straightforward intervention from the BOJ. Right now, if you look at the Forex Factory, it's showing that the US yen has dropped over the last 6 hours by 74, 75, and it's still looking like it's heading lower, 70 something pips. It's not with this kind of drop, it's not the kind of scale that I would attribute to an intervention, but it looks like because it's going against the grain of everything else, it looks like there is some I wouldn't like to say the word, but some manipulation happening from the BOJ, or some price fixing happening from the BOJ. We never know. We can only find out after the fact. Right now it's at minus 77, so it is gradually heading lower to the downside. Okay. Diana is asking about pound Swiss franc. Yes, we can do that, surely. And hey, Jimmy, how are you doing? I saw Jimmy sent me a video of his setup. He's got like monitors, two monitors here, one big one and two up the top and two. It's got a whole series of almost 300 and almost 180 degrees worth of monitors with all the different charts on it. It looks like a fantastic setup. I think if I had that setup, I'll probably end up with a 10. With all the lights coming from all angles. But now I know why. Now I know why Jimmy has been able to spot so many of the setups all the time, just because you got so many charts staring back at you. So I look forward to seeing more trade setups there from you, Jimmy. All right. Okay. So now, what has happened since the last time we spoke? German preliminary CPI month-on-month from the Eurozone came out. It was 0.5, expected a 0.2, came out at a 0.1. Although that's a red number, it does print a good signal, right? Given that German GDP, or German economic activity within the Eurozone German economic activity and GDP does take up a big proportion for the Eurozone. So if CPI or inflation growth is slowing down that massively from a 0.5 down to a 0.1, that might translate to better slowdown on a CPI growth or inflation growth for the Eurozone, leading to, again, more likelihood or better likelihood for a rate cut decision to come from the ECB. Again, like we said yesterday, might not be this time round, in June. It would be nice. I think it might be a little bit early, but maybe in the September meetings. Maybe a small one this time round, and then more consistently onwards. We'll see. Okay. Now, following from that, we had a bunch of news which shouldn't have attributed. I didn't see any headliners overnight that was going to attribute to that dollar strength, right? I didn't see any big headliners that you can draw the line and say, oh, because this happened or this was said, that's why we saw the dollar bounce. I think it was a very technical analysis or technical setup that caused or resulted in that bounce. We did have the Fed Bostic, member from Fed's Bostic, saying inflation path will be bumpy, but general trend is down. We know that already. Path to inflation is not assured, but Fed is vigilant. We know we know that it's on a general path to the downside. It's not at 2% yet. There is still time, or they still do require some time for it to get to that point. So all these headliners from last night has not led to, or did not signal the reasons for this push to the upside on the dollar, right? The only thing is that, and why I say it was more a bit of a technical reason, was how Neymar identified the inverted head and shoulder. Right at the end of our session yesterday, he said, hey, maybe there's an inverted head and shoulder on the dollar, right? Where we saw that shoulder, head, and I said at that time a very weak shoulder as it popped down within that hour and went back up. I thought that I was rather expecting a bit more of a shoulder and then develop that push to the upside. So that's one reason. Another reason was that it broke above the 50, broke above that trend line. And you can see it hesitated along this point. It tried right after our, where was it? Hang on, zoom in a bit. Right after our session there, it pushed up because of the euro dropping from the German CPI number. It pushed up, came back down, so it tested 50 many times within that couple of hours. And then when it pushed up and finally broke above that 50 and that trend line, and you would see also above that 61.8 level, which was that trend line, then we saw a big push to the upside. This was at 10 o'clock last night, GMT plus 8, breaking up above that 104.80 level towards 105, came up to that previous area of that previous swing high, hesitated, and then now, so far over the last 2 hours, rejecting that 105.15 level, pushing back down, but that resistance is now going to form a bit of a support. Okay, so it did not drop as we were planning for, but in fact the inverted head and shoulder saw the dollar index push up above or towards that 105 area. Now, with all that said, what do we have for today? Hang on. Hey Stefan, how are you doing? Diana's asking for GE40. I'll have a look at GE40. I don't know what that is, but I'll have a look at GE40. We'll see how that goes. Yes, US Swiss franc did nothing compared to the US CAD. I agree with that. I'll show you the chart on that shortly. And good morning, Ahmed. How are you doing? Okay. Now, what has happened since the last time we spoke of, or rather today, we had not a lot. We had a lot of news. We had a lot of news, but not huge price trend changing news. But the main thing to watch out for is tonight at 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8, we do have the US preliminary GDP quarter on quarter to be released. It was 1.6. It's expected 1.2. And it'll be interesting given how the dollar index has been spiked to the upside overnight. Right, given how the dollar index spiked to the upside overnight, if the GDP does come in a little bit lower than previous or close to expected, so 1.2, that might bring about some weakness on the dollar. But it does look like the forecast seems, I mean, when I looked at the forecast, it does look a bit low as a forecasted number, right? So I'm actually thinking that it might be an easy beat. It might be an easy beat in the sense that we might see a number below 1.6 but above the forecasted number, which could bring the dollar index back up again, right? So it's now retracing back down. Maybe we could see it bounce back up to resume its upward push. We'll have a look at that. So I'm just considering that news event, right? Typically, the GDP, the preliminary GDP in particular, doesn't have a huge impact, but it does seem like markets have been so quiet that it could overreact on that news. So we'll look out for that release. I'm actually thinking a bit higher than 1.2, but I don't think it'll be above 1.6 quarter on quarter. Just thinking of the previous or the data from the last quarter, it has been quite positive. So I actually I do think it'll be above 1.2, between 1.2 and 1.6 as well. My best guess would be. Then unemployment claims, that's a weekly number, 215, 218, not a big change, not expecting much from that. Following on with pending home sales for the US, expected to slow down from 3.4 to minus 1.1. Pending home sales at this point, not a big news event that I would focus on too much. And then through to tomorrow, a whole bunch of news, but I'll tell you more about the core PCE price index during tomorrow's session. Okay? Now, looking at the charts, before that, yeah, I know GE40 is the German 40 index, just haven't looked at it all that much or at all. So we'll look at that. Hey, good morning, Basanta. How are you doing? Okay, so now, today is the 30th of May. Take that, change that. Okay, dollar index didn't weaken, so we didn't see that weakness come back into play. We saw it break to the upside. Now it needs to stay above that 105 level, which although, okay, that trend line is done, I can take that away. I don't need that. Okay, here we go. So it needs to stay above 105. It's retracing. I can understand that retracement. I can take that one away. Yeah, so I can understand that retracement right now. It needs to complete that retracement and stay above 105. Which, let's see if it coincides with any particular levels. Which coincides with that 23.6 level. Right. So it's along this point. Look for it to stay above 105. What I'm looking at here on the dollar, it's retracing, needs to stay above 105 support to maintain bullish, could retest 105.50. There we go. Okay, so it's retracing right now, needs to stay above this 105 support level to retest 105.50. That's what we're looking for. Could it, a typical question is, could it keep within this range? So we've seen it test, bounce, so we've seen it hit the top, come back down, and then hit the top again. Could it come back down? Can't rule that out, but given that it's pushed up, I'll be looking for that trending up scenario. And then if I look at that pushing up, that kind of gives a bit of a support to the upside as well. I would be quite happy with that view, I would say. All right, so it's tested 61.8, came back down to that 61.8 area, bounce back up, now test that support and trend line before pushing back up. Okay, we'll maintain that view for the dollar index. Now, given that, looking at the Kiwi, so yesterday we were looking for that bounce. It bounced, it did bounce. No, wait, here, yeah, it did bounce off this level right after our session. It did push to the upside, and I thought, hey, could be going higher, but did not trigger that trade, so we take that away. Right, a lot of our setups from yesterday was not triggered. Trend line, I don't need, I can have that, but I don't need that. I'll take that away. Don't need that or that as well. Okay, so that's what we have. Kiwi dollar. This was from that previous move, broke up, come back down, still finding that support area here. So anticipating further dollar strength, it would be relatively straightforward. We're going to see the Kiwi dollar sit in consolidation at this support, but if the dollar does strengthen further, then we'll be looking at 6070, stop loss 20 pips, take profit. You could go down to 60 or 65 to the downside. You could even go down to 75 to the downside, but I would say that 65 would be reasonable. Okay, so we're looking for the break of the support to head to the downside there for the Kiwi dollar. 6070. We're looking to sell at 0.6070, stop loss 20, take profit 65. Take profit 65 to the downside. It needs to stay. If it doesn't stay above this point, then we could be looking at the Kiwi dollar remaining within this range for it to bounce off this support level, right? So we could also be looking at what we've been seeing here, very similar to what we've been seeing here. I would say a bounce above 6.1, take profit 35, stop loss. I think that point will be about 20 to, we'll keep 20. So we'll be looking at a similar move like that. Okay, and that's what I'll be looking for. But I think that the more likely scenario will be that the dollar retraces, completes its retracement, bounces off the support to push higher. Gonna sit there for a while first, I think, because it has been a big drop. Okay, Aussie, again, it pushed up, came back down, did not push back up, take that away, did not trigger, take that away. Right now, finding that interim support level here at 6595. All right, finding the support here. I would say that if you're thinking of that dollar strength, in case we do see it drop and break that trend line and support level and the dollar does weaken back down, you'll be looking for this, given that it's bounced off here. I don't like that line there anymore, but we'll keep that there for now. Aussie dollar, you could be looking at buying it up if it bounces off. So finding that double bottom here, or forming that double bottom here on dollar weakness scenario, you'll be looking at 6615, stop loss 25 pips, take profit, you can do 35, I would even go 55 to the upside. So finding a double bottom to push up towards that previous swing high that we saw on Tuesday. Right, this is on a dollar weakness scenario. So I'll be looking for this at 6615. Stop loss 20, 25, take profit 55. Take profit 55. Okay. And that's if we see the dollar weaken, then we're going to see the Aussie dollar form a double bottom and push to the upside, bouncing off that point. Then comes the tricky one on the US yen. I don't know why it's taking a while to load up my lines. Okay, there we go. Right, US yen, we had this from yesterday. I'm hoping that it does play out. So that did not take that away. Right, that pushed up slightly. So if you look at that, right, you do have a small move, about 20 pips to the upside, and it would have come straight back down and hit your stop if you didn't close out at 20. But this was what we were looking out for from yesterday, for it to come down to test this level and bounce up. It looks like it took a slightly different path. It didn't come straight down. It went up, came down, tested this point. I would say that if the close of this hour forms the pin bar that it looks like it's trying to form right now. Right? If it forms a pin bar at this support area, which coincides with that 23.6 level, a rejection of this point with a pin bar, we could see the US yen push back up again. Okay, so I'll give you a bit more space this time and look for it at 5690, 156.90, 80 pips to the upside, 40 pips stop loss, 1:2 to the upside. I'll look for that. Right, and this is on a continuation of the dollar strength. Maybe failed intervention, stealth intervention, but failed from the BOJ, maybe, we don't know. Then also the pin bar forming to the upside. Yesterday's bullish flag played well. Yes, it did. So I'm looking at that. It's sitting right there. That's still pushing down. That's why it's retraced slightly. I'll keep that view and look for that. I'm not comfortable to try and sell it down. I'm not that comfortable trying to sell it down. If it does come down lower, then I'll look for a reaction of this point to see whether it's going to bounce back up. But for now, I'll be looking at 156.90, 40 to 80 to the upside. Okay, 156.90, stop loss 40, take profit 80 to the upside. It's retracing, still looking for that bounce back up. All right, then onto the pound dollar. All right, onto the pound dollar. If you recall from yesterday, not yesterday, the day before, we were looking for it to trade to the downside. But it found that support here, just thinking that, hey, maybe it's found that support. Maybe we were expecting some dollar weakness to come back into play. Did not trigger. We'll take that away. And that's done. Take all that away. Okay. Previous swing level still valid. Take that away. Support level is still valid. In fact, I'll revise it down to a more recent support. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. Jimmy just said, since I joined you last year in April, has it been that long? Last year in April. It's really improved my trading. I really appreciate your time and guidance. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you're seeing the benefits of the sessions. It makes me happier than anything to see you guys benefit from this. Okay. Now that I'm gushing, let's get back to this point here. You know, it's interesting that we're thinking that the dollar index might bounce, but it does look like many signals saying that we might see that dollar will continue to weaken again. I really like the US yen. I hope it stays like that for now, so that by the end of the session I can get into the US yen to the upside. My first thought on the pound dollar is that it could form a double bottom and bounce up, right? Given that there are no major news. Very similar to what we saw on the Aussie, I was thinking, first thought is that it might form a double bottom and bounce up, but with the way it's been moving, I don't anticipate that so much. I'm more thinking that yes, it might have a double bottom there, but it could test 23.6 before pushing back down again, or 38.2. Around this range. It could retrace a little bit more before pushing back down, right? I wouldn't do anything within this range. I would look to sell it down 1.26. So I'll look for it to push back up, come back down again, then sell down 1.2680. Stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the downside. Let me see, where else can we target? This point here. So down to this point. So we're looking at that. I know this is right in the middle, but I'm just considering those points there. So I would say that if the dollar does continue to strengthen, right, complete its retracement and strengthen on the dollar, then we could see this come down, but with a possible hesitation at 1.2645. Okay, so I'll be looking for the pound dollar as well to retrace, reject that retracement, come back down. I'll sell at 1.2680, 20 pip stop loss, 75 pip take profit with a hesitation at 1.2645. So many numbers, I've forgotten half of them already. Let me see. Sell at 1.2680, stop loss 20, take profit 75. I'm doing well. Hesitation at 1.2645. Good. I remembered everything. There we go. Okay, sit there, push. Oh, yep, okay, I'm happy with that. Then onto the euro. Talk about bouncing around at this point. We talk about bouncing around at this point. It did that in a wider scale. It was at 1.0852. Shot down, bounced off the trend line, came back within the range, bounced off trend line again, came back within the range, and then this was where I thought, this was right here. Let me take that away for now. Right here was where I thought that as it was breaking up, I thought, yes, it bounced off the trend line, could be looking to buy it up. Right, but it never got to that point to trigger the trade for me to the upside. I did trade the euro down overnight as it broke that trend line. As the dollar was strengthening, I did have couple of quick trades to the downside on the euro dollar. Now that's done. And in fact, if you look at it, the trend line is pretty much completed as well, or broken. I'll look at this and look for 61.8, which is where it found that support. Right? It found that support at 61.8. right? So as usual, check this out. Spanish CPI just came out at 3.6. Bit higher, but I'm not too keen on the Spanish. GDP quarter-on-quarter came out at 0.5 for the Swiss. No other big news items. Okay. Straightforward would be dollar strength. I would look to sell it down at 1.0780. Stop loss 20. Take profit 50 to the downside. Right? The contrarian view would be if it finds or it fails to break below that 61.8 level and bounces back up. Could we? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't look to buy the euro. I think if you wanted to buy it up, I would be more tempted to think of that double bottom. I don't know why it's not loading. Hang on, am I still okay? All right, my trading view has just decided not to load my lines on the pound. Okay, there we go. If we're looking to, if you wanted to trade on dollar weakness, or if we see dollar weakness and you wanted to trade, then I would say that double bottom on the pound, you would look to buy it up 30 pip, stop, you buy it up to 60 pip take to the upside there, right to that point. I wouldn't be looking at that on the euro. I think euro, as much as it might retrace, I would be looking for that retracement and the continuation back down. Good morning, Erwin. How are you doing? So 1.0780. I'll look to do that. Yeah, I'll put that in first. There is a also there is a double bottom opportunity. Okay. This one I'll look to sell at 1.08 or 1.0780. Stop loss 20, take profit 50. 1.0780. Stop loss 20, take profit 50 to the downside. Yep, okay. Then onto the US Swiss franc. We were just talking about this, how although the dollar had that massive strength, well, relatively massive strength, the US Swiss franc pretty much did, according to my squiggly lines, half of my squiggly lines, it squiggled all the way up, failed to break that resistance, and then as the dollar today retraced to the downside, we're seeing the Swiss franc push down, slightly also because of the GDP number quarter on quarter. Ooh, hang on, let me see. Okay, no, I will still wait. US yen making some moves from Diana saying it is pushing up. I'm looking for that. I would be a little bit cautious. I'll wait for the candle to close and look for that pin bar, then get into that. So it is looking very nice, I agree. But yeah, I want the candle to close like that before I would get in. Thanks for spotting that, Diana. Then onto the US Swiss franc, it did that. I was saying that the GDP number for the Swiss came out was 0.3, came out at 0.5, and that's why we're seeing that strength on the US Swiss, or on the Swiss franc. Now, given that it's doing that, trend line is done. You can take that. I still wouldn't look for anything Rather, I mean, I would still be looking for it to break that resistance back up. So it'd be a very similar move to yesterday. 0.9160, stop loss 20, take profit 65 to the upside. 9160, stop loss 30, 65. I would even say this can be 20. But yeah, US yen is going to be one that I'm going to watch quite closely. I'm thinking now, could we look to buy from this point instead? 9105, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the upside. Maybe. Actually, I like that one more. All right, now that it's pushing down, I'm thinking that similar to what we've seen on Tuesday, if it finds 38.2 and that trend line, look for it to test and bounce back up. That's what I've been looking for. 9155 is a weekly pivot. 9155 is a weekly pivot. Yeah, that point there. And that's why I think, yeah, I actually like that more. Now that it's pushing down, look for it to test around this point, bounce back up. 9105, 20 to 40 to the upside. I see a question there. Let me put this in first. 9105, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the upside. Okay. Dinah's question, if you're going long for the US yen, would you closely watch DXY or not? I would tell you that when I'm looking at the yen doing that, what would happen is that I would have that, and then I'll click and I'll watch that, and then I'll look at that, and I'll click in that, and I'll just be toggling in between. It's not fully on the dollar index. It's not fully on the US yen. I'll toggle in between just to know that if this is pushing up, is it pushing up because of the dollar resumption of strength, or is it pushing up because of yen weakness? Right? Then if I see this pushing up and I see dollar pushing up as well, then I would check, for example, one of the other pairs just to make sure that I'm seeing that dollar strength come back into play. Then I'll have more commitment or confidence for that to push up. Does that make sense? I hope I answered your question there. But yeah, good question. Then onto the US CAD, the loonie did perfectly. I think someone got onto that. Marina's got the US CAD 30 pips to the upside. We had 60 to the upside. I caught that and held it all the way. I not held it all the way on purpose. I caught that and I just left it, kind of forgot about it, and it just pushed all the way up. By the time I saw it, when I was trading the euro, it was up there, and I just thought, I'll let it see what happens. Move that to break even, and then let it see what happens. So very nicely, 60 pips played out on the US CAD. Now that's done, take that away. Like I was telling you, right? It looks like, and anyone else got onto the US CAD, do let me know. It looks like we're seeing a lot of pairs signal a potential dollar weakness. Look at that pushing down, right? Because it's all showing a possible rejection, and that can happen. I'm not saying that we can't see dollar weakness, because it just needs to break that point. I know I'm having a bit too many lines. It just needs to break that point, 23.6, and that support level and that trend line, and it becomes messy as it drops down. So there is a chance of dollar weakness scenario, and we've highlighted some dollar strength, dollar weakness scenarios. I would, in this case, be looking at I don't want it down here. I think that's a bit too far away. If we had it 1.3705, 30 to 45. I was actually thinking back up here. 1.3715 feels a bit near. 1.3710, 25 to 50. I'll do that. I'll be more keen on that for the USCAD. Just before that 23.6 level, I'll be looking at 1.3710, 25 pip to 50 pips to the downside. Looking to sell it down at 1.3710, stop loss 25, take profit 50 to the downside. Okay, so now you again see the dollar is pushing down while the US yen is still pushing to the upside. I don't know why my lines are not loading again. Okay, but you can still see it's pushing to the upside. Load. Okay, it's not loading my lines. US yen rise on, there we go, on haven demand. Yeah, so we're looking at that. Yeah, I would like to see that. Now that it's broken, or looks like it's going to break, you might even be looking at 1.5, 157. Your stop can be tighter to about 30 pips. Just below that point, take profit at 70. Could be looking at that as well. Okay. We've done the US CAD, yes. I don't know why it's so long to load now. Gold is doing something. Why is my chart not? Okay, the gold worked out perfectly. It broke that bearish flag, where we had that big push to the downside. We had a flag, broke the flag down. We talked about this. Break 23.45, hit to 23.30. It did that exactly. 23.45 went down to 23.30. Jumarinus is in already at 156.80. Okay, good. We'll have a look at that shortly. At this point now, that worked out. That we don't need, take away. We'll keep that, we'll keep that. I'm actually thinking that we might see it push back up. We might see it push back up from, so 23, I'll keep this very tight, 23.35, no, 23.40. No, I don't like this. I think it's going to do that push up, but I don't see any big move up. I think that it's going to keep within this range. So I think that gold likely to range between 23.30 and 23.50 for time being. Okay, so it's likely to range between 23.30 and 23.50. There is the US GDP news tonight, yes. And now that's why it's retracing, looking for it to come out and push that up. I think that's reasonable. Unless that's a front running of the GDP news, which could be very bad. Right, so if it's a bad news, then we're going to see the dollar come back down, which then we would have our US CAD to the downside. We would have euro, now I'll keep euro out. We would have pound to the upside on the retracement for that move up. We would have the Aussie on the double bottom to the upside as well. So we have some opportunities. If dollar index is strong, gold is strong, not no. If dollar index is strong, typically we should see, if DXY is weak, it's kind of inverse correlated. So we should see it go the opposite direction. But right now, it's just about, all it comes down to is just about at this point, what's the dollar index going to do? Is it going to retrace and bounce or break through that trend line and hit lower? That's there and pushing. June Mariners, you had a long at 156.80. Mind sharing, where's your stop loss? Because at 156.80, which is quite early, quite good, but a bit early, I would say. Your stop loss should be 156.55 at least. Okay. Then we'll look at the pound Swiss. That did not happen. We take that away. Take that away. Now at this point, take all that up. 23, 38. And it's found 30. Come close to 38. Right at that point there. At this point, let me see, why do I have this line? Okay, I don't need that line there. Take that away. Plonk that up there. Okay. So now I'm looking at this on the pound Swiss. Pound dollar looking like it's pushing back up. Still need to wait and see what happens. US Swiss franc looking like it's pushing down. So on the pound Swiss, we're getting a bit of a contradictory move because US Swiss franc pushing down, we should see pound Swiss franc pushing down, but the pound dollar is up, so it's propping it up. I think that if it holds above this area, if it holds this area, then you could be looking for it to push back up to retest that resistance area. I would say that about 1.1580, 30 pip stop, 90 pip take. I don't think you'll get all the way to 90 in a hurry. I don't see any big reason. I think that you'd have that point there. I think that would be reasonable. 65 to the upside. $65. I would look for that area, so maybe even slightly below, so about 60 to that point. Right, so what we're looking for is a bounce back up for the pound Swiss franc. Okay, 156.30 is very good. 156.30 is very good. That looks like a good setup. A very brave entry there, June Mariners, but it looks like a good setup. Okay, hope I answered your question there on the pound Swiss franc. If it fails to hold, then I'll look for a reaction at the next point here on the support at 1.15. Then on to the 40. I don't have that. Let's see. Okay, on the Diana, you want to tell me what should I be typing to look for that? I don't have it here. There we go. Okay. All right. Yeah, got it. This is the one, right? I hope this is the right one. Let me look at it on H4 first. Broken. I don't like just looking at it on a technical view, but we're gonna do the best for now. In fact, I see a bit of a channel. I see a bit of a, no, that's too wide. I see a bit of a channel like that. Not the best. And I'm thinking of that point there. Pushing back up. It's pushing back up slightly. And then we have our big resistance up here. Okay, that makes sense. And also one point there. So that level, there. Okay, that all makes sense. So now looking at this purely based on a technical view would be that, let me just add in one more. That point wouldn't make sense. That's not going to do too much either. Okay. So purely based on a technical view, what I would say is that if this point holds, or rather, that is what it's doing now, it's going to find a little bit of a support here. It might push back up slightly, but I would be looking at it come down, test, and then maybe push back up. Because of that 61.8 level, it's going to find a bit of a support here because of these points. So I'll be looking for it to test this point. Now that it's testing this point, bounce back up slightly. If we see a rejection before that point there, we're going to see it turn back down, test 61.8. I think that'd be a better platform for it to trigger an upward move to bounce off the trend line back up towards the high and maybe even higher than that. Okay, hope that answers your question there on the German 40. I'm going to add that to the watch list. We can let me know how I fare with that. That's on H4 time frame. On the H1 time frame, I would say that, yeah, it's going to retrace. Looks like it's going to retrace back up. If it fails to break, then it will come back down. You guys are getting me excited about the US yen. It is breaking up. There is that rejection, pin bar rejection. There is a push to the upside. There is dollar still showing that weakness. So this push on the US yen back up is going to be driven by, or likely driven by, the yen weakness. Going to be choppy because that's still applying some downward pressure. We're going to see it chop around here for a little bit. I do want to see it break past 157 to close above that before you get in. Breakdown in pairs, recent history incoming. Yen strength driven, pound yen may break. Pound yen, it's broken down. That did not trigger, take that away. In fact, I think in addition to the US yen, you could be looking at pound yen 199.90, stop loss 30. I think if we see the pound strengthen back up, we could see a big move up here on the pound yen to the upside as well. Okay. Hope that answers all your questions about the market movements for today. I feel like I need to end the session now and get into some trades. Please remember, if you have any questions, reach out on Discord and let me know. I'll see you on Discord. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Please take care, trade well, and trade safe. Bye-bye.